Members, good morning. We formed the quorum is already the appointed time. May I call the meeting to order? May I first invite you to confirm the minutes of meeting dated on the 16th of November 2012. The Secretary has not received any proposal for amendments. Can we endorse the minutes, please? Right. Information papers issued since the last meeting. We have two. And please refer to the agenda for these two papers. Date of our next meeting is scheduled for the 15th of March. There are two suggestions from the administration. The first is installation of stop-and-go e-payment facilities at government-tolled roads and tunnels. And the other one is reprovisioning of Yalmate Police Station. Since it involves the advanced project for Central Kowloon Route, the panel will be consulted first. All right, any other issues, please? Mr. Wong Kok Heng. Thank you, Chairman. I have written to you on the tragedy in Lama Channel. That was a Titanic form, Hong Kong style Titanic form of sinking, and the inquiry is still going on. It reveals that the Marine Department has some deficiencies in examination of vessels. So, for vessels that are in Hong Kong waters, do they have the necessary safety facilities? Because there is no watertight doors on Lama 4. As a result, we had the Hong Kong-style Titanic sinking of the vessel. So, we're very concerned about the safety facilities of existing vessels. In the past, we talked about life jackets only. So, from this perspective of traffic safety, now because this is the transport panel, I ask for your permission, Chairman, to have a discussion on this topic as soon as possible, inviting all relevant government departments to give us an account of whether the relevant departments have re-examined all vessels in Hong Kong waters to see whether they're provided with such facilities, and if not, remedies are being taken. Okay? I suggest we proceed in this way. For vessels already in Hong Kong waters, do they have such a facility? I don't think we can confirm their existence or otherwise by just one meeting. I suggest that I forward Mr. Wong Kok Heng's letter to the relevant department for their follow-up, okay? We await their reply. If each vessel is really fitted with one, then there is no need for us to convene a meeting. If not, we will decide further whether such a meeting is necessary. Yes, please. They have to conduct a comprehensive check of all vessels. Dr. Kwokaki? Chairman, I agree with Mr. Wong Kok Heng's idea. But in fact, we're not concerned about the usual pleasure boats, rather passenger-carrying vessels. The ferries plying or going to our islands, outlying islands on a daily basis, and also kaitos. Chairman, you know, in your constituency, Kwun Tong, there are many kaitos in operation every day. These are major issues. We can't afford to wait, and we might as well invite them to come, and we can ask them. I think on the question of vessels, I know best. Not all vessels required to have a watertight. Well, I understand that. I also use vessels myself. All right. Let's write a letter to the Marine Department and ask for a paper first. All right, let's put it on our list of outstanding items. Mr. Jeffrey Lam. I think I have no question on your knowledge about vessels, but we should not really make a distinction between public ferries and private vessels. I think it's time a comprehensive review is done on all vessels in Hong Kong. The paramount point is to ensure the safety of passengers. All right. Date of next meeting, the 15th of March at 10:45. If there are no other questions, we will take up the two proposals by the administration. That will be the agenda for the next meeting. Item 4. Oh, I beg your pardon, Chairman. Dr. Kwok. As we all know, yesterday the administration published a second report on railway review. How are we going to deal with that? Let me tell you that the next subcommittee on railway matters will follow up on that. Okay, Mr. Jeffrey Lam. No more issues? Okay. Mr. Gary Chen? Not from me. Okay. Well, you're all very swift to react. All right. A show of hands, please. And the Secretariat can note all members who intend to speak on this item. Let me welcome from the administration Professor Anthony Cheung, Secretary for Transport and Housing, and Mr. Patrick Chan, Deputy Secretary, Mr. David To, Deputy Commissioner from the Transport Department, and from the consultancy, Mr. Billy Wong, Associate of Wilbur Smith, and also Miss Sue Chan and Mr. Michael Clark. And we also have from the Transport Department, Mr. Anthony Liu, Assistant Secretary. Secretary, can you please walk us through the paper? Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we would like to brief members on our proposals to improve the traffic distribution among the road harbour crossings. For a long time, members of the public are concerned about how we can alleviate traffic congestion involving RHCs. So we commissioned a consultancy, and that was completed in 2010. And the proposal is to reduce the tolls at EHC and increase the tolls at CHT to divert traffic from the latter to the former, so as to alleviate traffic congestion around CHT. In 2010-11, we conducted a public consultation on recommendations of the consultant. We consulted the public, the transport trade, and also the professionals. On the basis of views received, we have revised our adjustment options so as to respond to the aspirations of the public, such as lowering the tolls for public transport for CHT. So we're proposing 3 options for 3 months of public consultation. That involves various extent of toll adjustment for the 2 tunnels. Well, for the Western Harbour Crossing, WHC, while there is still spare capacity within the tunnel, its connecting roads in Central in particular are already heavily congested and not able to cope extra traffic during busy hours. So this constraint will only be removed after or overcome when the Central Wan Chai bypass comes into operation in end 2017. So we don't intend to reduce tolls at WHC to divert traffic from CHT. For option A, we believe we can shorten the queue at CHT by 40% without affecting non-cross harbour traffic, and for option B by 30% and option C 38%. All 3 options can bring economic benefits to the community. Well, there will be benefits in the range of 5 $520 to $560 million per year. And environmental protection, all options will help us to reduce about 4,000 tons of CO2 emission. Although there will be toll increases, but the toll adjustment will cause a shortened journey time for traffic in CHT. And then the tolls for public transport will not be changed at all. Now, taxis, private vehicles, and public transport can make savings up to $100 million or as much as $270 million. Well, of course, users of EHC will benefit from lower tolls, and CHT users can benefit from shorter journey times, and the majority of the public can benefit through less emissions. I will now invite Mr. Anthony Liu, Assistant Commissioner, to brief you on the details and the computer modeling of the proposals. Mr. Liu. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members. The uneven distribution of traffic have caused a lot of economic loss to members of the public. On average, the daily traffic throughput of CHT is about 120,000 vehicles. 50% above is design capacity. Well, the queue is very long, and then the queues has also affected non-cross harbor traffic. For EHC, the traffic is smooth in general, although traffic is busy at peak hours, but there is no congestion yet. And the average daily traffic throughput is about 70%, about 90% of its design capacity. So there is still some spare capacity to accommodate more traffic. As regards WHC, although there is still spare capacity in the tunnel, there aren't sufficient connecting roads. In particular, in the connecting roads in Central, there are long queues during busy hours. The daily traffic throughput is about 60,000, 10% above its design capacity. So we are proposing three options for the public to debate on. And all these are based on the premises that tolls for EHC will increase, while that for CH2 will be lowered, so as to redistribute traffic. The intention is to shorten the queue at CHT during peak hours about 40%. According to the consultants, if the queue can be shortened by 40% or more, then cross-harbor traffic queues will no longer interfere with non-cross-harbor traffic. Option A involve a cut of $5 for private car HC, and for other types of vehicles there will be corresponding increases. Now, for heavy vehicle, the adjustment will be higher by percentage.
For option B, it's the same as the first one. It is reduce HC toll by $5, increase HT PC toll by $5, and adjust the types tolls of other vehicle types proportionally. And this is a simpler option. Option 3 is to maintain the tolls for public transport vehicles and also cut the increased rate for goods vehicles, and that is aimed at reducing the impact on the general public and the goods vehicles trade. Now, if we want to shorten the CHT then that $10 increase has to be imposed on CHT toll. So that's the fare structure for the three options that's contained in the annex. I want to stress that these options do not have anything to do with the WHC toll. To let you have a better understanding of the actual diversion of traffic, I would use option C as a model to explain. Because of EHC reduction and CHT increase, there will be around 3,400 vehicles coming from EHC to CHT. And then there will be an additional 1,000 because of the easing of the CHT, and then some part of the traffic from WHC will also be diverted to CHT, and all these will happen at the same time. And overall, the vehicle at CHT will be reduced by 4,200 vehicles, while the number of vehicles for EHC will be increased by 4,000 and 8,000. Overall, the CHT queue is very long. Now, taking Gloucester Road as an example, the queue is near around the revenue tower. Under option C, the queue of CHT will be cut by 38%, and then the queue will be changed to the Wan Chai Stadium, so it won't affect the non-cross harbour traffic. As for EHC, taking Lei Yu Mun Road as a spot, the busy hours, the queue will be longer. The end of the queue will be at Lam Tin MTR station. It won't affect the non-cross harbour traffic. For options A and B, the queue will be reduced by 40% and 30% respectively. Now, taking the waiting time for CHT, for all the three options, the waiting time will be cut by 5 minutes to 15 minutes. Well, time is money. If we can save time, then it means that we can save money and costs. On the economic and financial impact, it depends on which option is adopted. The Appendix 1 gives the details. I don't want to go into details here. The economic benefits includes the tunnel user saving up traveling time, saving costs, including fuel costs and maintenance fees. Our goal is to ease the congestion at CHT, and at the same time, we don't want to impose too heavy a burden on EHC. So according to the consultant's report, in order to maintain or strike a balance, apart from EHC reduction toll, we have to increase the toll at CHT as well. There is this view in the community whether the reduction in toll should be introduced only in EHC, and then the CHT toll will remain unchanged. I can only say that this is not feasible. Let me quote an example. If, say, there is a toll reduction of $10 for EHC and there is no change in toll of CHT, then 5,900 vehicles to go from CH2 to EHC. And now, because of the reduction in toll for EHC, an additional 2,900 vehicles will be attracted to EHC, and in total, it means an additional 8,800 vehicles. So at Lei Yu Mun Say, the end of the queue will go beyond the Chang Kung O interchange, and that would have a serious impact on the Chang Kwan O traffic condition. Now, for this proposal, because the easing of congestion at CHT, then that would attract an additional 500 vehicles, and also a large number of vehicles would also be attracted from WHC to CHT. And so as a result, only 1,300 vehicles will be reduced in total for CHT. So there is another view on whether we should reduce the toll at WHC to resolve the problem. As I said, the connecting roads in central around WHC are inadequate, and it's already very congested. But before the central Wan Chai bypass is completed, there is no room for us to increase the toll at WHC to resolve the problem. That's so much for my presentation. So I would now like to ask the consultant to talk about the transport model. Who? From Mr. To? From the consultant? Mr. Michael Clark?
I'm here to talk about the transport models that we use to produce these results. These are the comprehensive transport models, and for Hong Kong they're extremely complex, based on about 40 years of research here and around the world. They're comprehensive in the sense that they cover the whole of Hong Kong and all vehicular modes of transport. There will be some slides in a second. Now, one of the reasons why Hong Kong has the transport system that it does, there are about 100 different purpose-written programs covering thousands of steps. So this presentation will focus on what they do and not how they do it. Hong Kong is divided into about 400 traffic zones geographically, and in addition there are cross-boundary points, airport, port and other things. For each of those geographic zones we have planning data produced by Planning Department, populations, households, employed residents, students, school places, employment, many other things. And these data are kept current by Planning Department. We have economic data like income, GDP, values of time which come out of our own surveys. There are two sorts of values of time. Behavioural, which is the way that people react to cost as compared with time, and evaluative, in which people which expresses the value of that time to the community. We have transport policies like restraint on car ownership, which used to be one that we looked at a lot, many transport policies. Basically anything you can think of that affects transport goes into these models in one way or another. We have transport networks which describe the transport system of Hong Kong. The highway network says where the highways are, how their capacity is derived, many other things about the highway network. All non-local roads are included in the highway network. Public transport network describes all franchised public transport services and some non-franchised. Says where the buses, trains, ferries go through and to and from, how often they run, what the fares are. The model is highly disaggregated, so we look at different groups of people. Vehicle ownership is one thing that makes a big difference to how people travel, so we have car owning, non-car owning households. Trip purpose makes a big difference. We have journey to work, journey to school, other trips from the home, trips not from the home for work, trips not from the home for other purposes. They all affect the way that people choose to travel. We have all the travel modes, as well as car, taxi. We have all the different sorts of buses, the rails, the ferries, anything you can think of that carries people is in there. Plus we have goods vehicles, but that's a separate story slightly. We have flows by different time periods, morning peak, evening peak, inter-peak. When we run the models, it produces various outputs. Vehicle flows on the roads is one of the main things. These are in balance with the road speeds, and also we can produce queues by time of day. And on public transport, we have the number of passengers, the numbers of vehicles required, revenue, that sort of thing. On the roads, obviously, once we have the vehicle flows through the tunnels, we know what the revenue is. Next. Okay, to use the model. First thing we do is to run the model with all the parameters as they are today. We get all of the population information, the economic information, current. We run the model and see what results it gives for the places that we're interested in. In this case, the cross-harbour tunnels. That we did. And that really forms our base case for the current year. We then look at test cases. Test cases for this study are based on changing the tolls on the cross-harbour tunnel, changing by different vehicle types and different tunnels. Now, as that toll changes, we have the values of time that I mentioned earlier. This is then rebalanced, the times and the toll, until we have the flows on the tunnel in the test case. We have three sorts of evaluation that we could put into place. Operational evaluation is really a comparison of capacity and demand for the tunnels, but actually for every road and every public transport service in Hong Kong. Environmental evaluation is due to the reduction in number of vehicle kilometres in the territory. And then in the case of changing the tunnel tolls, there are pluses and minuses all over the place, through the tunnels themselves and in Yau Chin Mong, in Wan Chai, everywhere. To add all of these things together, what we use is an economic evaluation, consumer surplus, using the evaluative values of time that I mentioned earlier. Summarise, we're very happy with these models. They've worked well in the past, including looking at previous toll changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. 局長冇其他
冇補充啦，可以。
Do you have anything to add? Well, then we'll now listen to the views of the members. I have 9 members who have raised their hands. Because this is an issue very important, and that is of wide public concern. So at appropriate time, I would be holding a public hearing to listen to views of the relevant sectors and members of the community. Many members have raised their hands. Kwakaki, Wong Kwok Heng, Chang Hak Ken, Jeffrey Lam, Lee Chuk Yan, Ronnie Tong, Poon Siu Ping, Lo Wai Kwok, Virginia Yip. Okay. Any other members? Please raise your hand so that I can control the time better. 4 minutes each, please. Mr. Kwokaki. Thank you, Chairman. I understand that the government has really the heart to resolve the problem, but I think the options are not that good. The Assistant Commissioner said CHT increase, EHC reduction. Now, well, the EHC is almost to reach its design capacity, just have a room for 8,000 vehicles. And then you are making so many options just to reduce several thousand of vehicles in CHT. Well, for those who have to use the tunnels, and the increase in toll is going to be a big burden. If you say that the CHT toll remains the same, then there will be an addition of 8,800 vehicles in the HC. Well, everyone has his own reason for choosing one tunnel or another. I think the connection between CHT and WHC is the best. Well, you said that from Kowloon to Hong Kong via the WHC, you have to wait for the central Wan Chai bypass. That we can understand. But why can't we look at how we can increase the traffic from Hong Kong to Kowloon via WHC? Why don't you do something to WHC? Well, I think the option can achieve some effects only during peak hours. But for non-peak hours, the traffic is very smooth at these tunnels, but just because you want to reduce the congestion at the peak hours, you are penalizing everyone.
And thirdly, by 2016, the government will recover the franchise of EHC, and your trial scheme will go for 1 year. I'm worried that the government is using this excuse to increase tunnel tolls, in particular for CHT, and that's not very good. All right, the consultancy was done in 2008. If the trial scheme had started there, it would be more meaningful. But then, by the time you've completed your pilot scheme here, the government would be owning the HC. I think it's the best approach is to buy back WHC, and then you can unify the tolls for all 3 tunnels. That is better than increasing the burden on users and car owners. I will respond as a whole first before I invite my colleague to supplement. First, should we buy back WHC, or should the government own all 3 tunnels? Well, 3 tunnels are located at different places, and they attract different users, and we have to use tunnel tolls to distribute the traffic anyway. If we unify the tolls, I don't think it would be conducive to helping traffic to even out. And Dr. Kwok asked whether we are penalizing users by increasing the tolls for CHT. Now, the queue at CHT will be shortened. All users can benefit, and users can save time, and so that's a form of benefit. But there is just a reduction of 4,200 vehicles, while currently the daily throughput is 120,000. Our bottom line is, well, there will still be queues, but cross-harbor traffic would not be affected. I hope to achieve this. Chairman, I'm going to move a motion later to oppose to this. All right, if you have motions, hand them in. Because of time constraint, please be more concise and precise in asking questions, because we still have 2 more items on our agenda. Mr. Wong Kok Heng. Chairman. We're increasing tolls for CHT and cutting tolls for EHC. It is better than nothing, but will the results be very significant? During peak hours, both EHC and CHT are congested. So this is just a temporary measure. Can the government build the 4th tunnel, or build a bridge connecting the 2 sides of the harbor in order to cope with the increasing demand because of population growth and traffic growth? Secondly, on behalf of the General Motor General Union of the Motor Union Trade Taxi Sub-Branch, I'd like to make the following remarks. Well, for WHC, they charge empty taxis $50, whereas for CHT and HC, they only charge $15 and $10 respectively. The government can perhaps use administrative measures to ensure that the return journey of taxis at WHC should only be $15, and I'm sure you can immediately reap results. Because from Mongkok to Yamade, the meter fare is only $50 odd, but the return journey will cost the taxi driver $50. Of course, they would be reluctant to use WHC. So if we can persuade WHC to charge vacant taxis $50 only, I'm sure you can at once increase lower the number of taxis using CHT. So has the Secretary ever considered this possibility? Thank you. Mr. Wong said that for empty taxis, can the fares be lowered? What will be the impact on the traffic? I will defer to my colleagues. And the possibility of having a 4th tunnel. We keep assessing the traffic situation and usage of our RHCs. By 2017, when the Wan Chai Central Bypass is commissioned, will that benefit the traffic and the utilization of the 3 tunnels? That has to be assessed later. Regarding the need to build a 4th tunnel, well, finding the site is one problem, and whether there is a genuine need is another. And we have to find space for the connecting roads, and we will have to assess the impact on traffic on both sides of the harbor. Currently, we will focus our energy on traffic distribution among the 3 tunnels. But if the government refuses to do any study, that means you won't have a way out. We believe that using our proposal to reduce the tolls at HC and increase the tolls at CHT, traffic congestion can be relieved to the extent that cross-harbor traffic will not affect cross-harbor traffic. But of course, traffic will continue to grow. I hope that by connecting roads and the commissioning of Central One Track Bypass in 2017, we can have more effective use of WHC. Of course, the traffic situation may change, but we'll closely monitor the situation. Also, I asked colleagues from the Transport Department to supplement the taxi tolls at WHC. Now, for WHC, we do not propose any reduction in tolls for any modes of vehicles because that will increase the burden on the connecting roads in Central Side. For WHC, there are quite a lot of taxis using it. About 28% of the traffic using WHC are taxis, whereas the corresponding figure for RHT and HC is just 26 and 22% respectively. Your time is up. Mr. Gary Chen. All right, I have considered all three options, and I'm a bit worried because the government is just moving traffic congestion from CHT to EHC. So CHT will continue to be congested, and from fairly congested, EHC will become very congested. During peak hours, traffic is very slow in Lam Tin and along Eastern Harbour Corridor. I'm worried that if option C is implemented, then the whole of Island East, including Cheung Kwan and Kwun Tong, would be affected by the cross-harbour traffic. I think motorists have their own considerations when choosing the tunnel they use. Just cutting the tolls at EHC may not be able to attract too much traffic there. So by toll reduction alone, it's not going to be effective. So I'd like to know why the administration has refused to touch WHC at all. Why is it totally ruled out in your consideration? We all understand about the connecting roads, but during non-peak hours, I think it will help to divert a lot of traffic from the two congested tunnels. So why can't you do something about WHC? And I'd like to know whether there is any fallback position. Assuming that all three options are not accepted by the community, how are you going to ease traffic congestion? Will you reconsider our proposal? Well, if fare tolls SHT remains the same and tolls are reduced for HC, it will not be very useful in helping us to relieve traffic congestion. As regards why we have leave WHC intact, because although it still has spare capacity in its tunnel, there are problems with its connecting roads. I will ask the Assistant Commissioner to supplement later. We've assessed the extra traffic to EHC under all three options, and still they are able to meet our bottom line. By and large, the cross-harbour traffic will not affect non-cross-harbour traffic. Mr. Lu. Thank you. First, EHC. As I said, traffic is smooth along EHC in general. Of course, on certain days at particular times, traffic may be busier. But you can see, this is a picture we took in our recent survey. At peak hours, from Kowloon to Hong Kong, the queue tails back to around the roundabout at Kai Tin Road. For all options, the queue may go a little bit longer to Lam Tin MTR station, but non-cross-harbour traffic still will not be affected. Why can't we cut the tolls for WHC? Well, because of the constraints of its connecting roads. If we consider the capacity of its connecting roads, it's just 55,000. Whereas the daily throughput of WHC is already 60,000. How about freezing the tolls for CHT and lowering the tolls for EHC? I think the Secretary already provided a response. Mr. Liu, can you continue? The problem with WHC doesn't lie with the peak hours. The queue is at around Dr. Sun Yat-sen Memorial Park for the during non-peak hours. The queue is already at Shuntek Center, so we don't propose to touch the tolls of WHC. There is going to be a 3-month public consultation period, so I think we can ask the consultants on how the model was done, and that there will be more time for members to talk about the traffic distribution model. Mr. Jeffrey Lam, I have to declare interest. I'm a frequent user of all 3 tunnels. Why is there uneven distribution of traffic among the 3 tunnels? Well, the location as well as the price differential are important factors. The administration proposed to cut tolls for EHC and increase tolls for CHT to divert some traffic from EHC to CHT. I believe this is the right direction forward, and I support it. But in considering this option, I'd like to ask how long the effect is going to remain. Now, if the toll increase is not enough, or the toll reduction is not attractive enough, then motorists may not be affected, will not be induced to change their behavior, or the effect might be offset very quickly. I'd like to ask, what plans do you have for the connecting roads of the 2 tunnels? Because if you have projects planned near the connecting roads, then you may affect the effectiveness of your proposal. I'm quite concerned about the commercial vehicles. For minibuses and franchised buses, they cannot just change the tunnel they use. They are bound by the scheduled routes. And for taxis, it's also not for taxi drivers to make the decision. Making a detour may cause the meter fare to be higher, and passengers may choose to be stuck in a jam for 10 minutes or so instead. So, yes, we have to know this before we can choose the preferred option. Secretary, we do agree that for public light buses and franchise buses, they are bound by their scheduled routes.
So they sometimes respond to passengers' demand on which route to choose. So among our 3 options, there is this option to maintain the toll fees for public transport modes. Now, for the effectiveness of the options, we think that the effect can last up to 2017 when the central Wanchai bypass is commissioned. On the connecting roads, perhaps I would defer to Mr. Low to explain. Mr. Low? Thank you, Chairman. As what the Secretary said, we anticipate that the impact of the traffic diversion will last till 2017. When the central Wanchai bypass is commissioned, then that will be able to accommodate more goods vehicles. Well, estimate is, after all, estimate. Before we implement the options, we will conduct a 12-month pilot scheme and to assess the impact, and if necessary, we will make further adjustments. About any road projects near the EHC CHT, are there any plans for any road projects which might have an adverse impact on the options? Well, Chairman, for the moment, we don't have any major projects near the 2 tunnels. But of course, the major project is the for the central Wanchai bypass, which is going to be completed in 2017. Mr. Lee Chuk-yan, thank you, Chairman. We look at the options from the perspective of diverting traffic. Now we have this bureau talking about, looking after transport, and another bureau looking after environmental protection. So on the issue of traffic congestion and increase in the number of vehicles, how do these bureaus work together to strike a balance? We may focus on traffic congestion in tunnels. But then what will be the impact on the number of vehicles on roads? We also have to look at the issue from the perspective of an environmental protection. So my question is, which option among the three can reduce the number of vehicles on roads, or is there a fourth option which can do that? Well, we've been discussing these options for a number of years. From an environmental protection point of view, electronic road pricing is an option to cut down on the number of private cars. Of course, we have a different perspective on the public transport modes, and because you are a public transport mode, then you have to use the tunnels. We encourage people using public transport means. Now, but for private cars, there's altogether another question. For those living in remote areas, they might have to use private cars. But I think we have to look into how to encourage people not to drive. This is something that the Hong Kong community as a whole should look at. Which option would discourage people to use private cars to cross the harbour? I think that's a very important point. I see that Mr. Kokake's proposal, there is a danger because you would be encouraging people to drive across the harbour by freezing the CHT toll. Would that create an adverse impact on the environment? I would like to look at another way how to discourage people from driving. The government has proposed this option of park and ride space, but now it seems that the proposal has been shelved. Now, can we come up with an option of a park and ride, and then people would travel through the harbour by publicists? Can we come up with an option which can facilitate or make it more convenient for people to travel through the harbour by buses after they have parked their cars? So I think we have to look at it from an environmental protection point of view, not just looking at it from the point of traffic congestion, emission, a decrease in number of cars, and so on. So I would like to see or look at which option can help reduce the number of cars used on the road. Yes, please be briefed, Secretary. Well, we are continuing to look at the park and ride options. Mr. Lee mentioned about electronic road pricing. Well, the tunnels are already charging tolls now. If we want to discourage use, we have to do that through charging tolls. So if we are reducing tolls, and that's in fact encouraging more people to use cars. Or there are some other means, like we restrict the number of cars by increasing the licensing fees. But that's an economic issue. I agree with Mr. Lee that we should just reduce the number of cars on roads. So that's also a reason for increasing the CHT toll. Now we understand that people living in remote areas, they have to travel to the core areas for activities. So we maintain the fees in the public transport for one of the options. ERP, we haven't never given up pursuing that option, but in order to implement that, we have to overcome a lot of technical difficulties. Say which sections of Hong Kong should be implemented. And for implement that option, we have to provide alternative routes for people, or else it will have an adverse impact on the traffic as a whole. I've got 7 members who wish to speak. 8 members altogether. Well, please be succinct. 4 minutes for each of you, because we've got 2 other agenda items. So I expect the meeting time will be extended. Now, next, there is another member, Ms. Sit Ho. Yes. Please be brief, Mr. Ronnie Tong. Chairman, I have to declare that I and my wife travel through the tunnels 8 times a day. I have 3 questions. The first is, the government says that it's not feasible to freeze the toll at CHT, and it gives the reasons on page 7, but I have reservations on the reasons. The number of new vehicles is 2,900 vehicles, but when you look at page 4, option C, but then the figure that is put there is 1,400 vehicles. Now, from 2,900 to 1,400, well, these are very different scenarios. I have questions on the modeling. Second question. I use the tunnel every day. Whether I choose not to use tunnel or not to use a tunnel, it hinges on whether I can find a car park and what the car park charges are. And the car park charges can be very expensive, more than double the tunnel fees. So if you say that you don't increase the CHT toll, then you will be encouraging a lot of people to drive through the CHT. I think that presumption is wrong. Why do you have to make the presumption that so many new vehicles will use the CHT when the CHT toll remains the same and CHT toll will be reduced? How do you come up with these figures? They're very large numbers. My third question, can we be more creative in our options? Can we just think about options of increasing fees only during peak hours, or increasing fees one way and not the other? Well, for WHC, say, if you drive from Hong Kong to Kowloon, then the traffic is smooth. If you reduce toll in that direction, then you will be able to attract traffic then. And that will be diverting traffic from CHT. So that would encourage people to shy away from crossing harbours during peak hours. So a lot of overseas countries have tried that. Say imposing toll one way only, say for the highway to the airport, that's also being done, toll on one way. Can we be more creative in our different options? Secretary, please. All these the presumptions are unrealistic, or have we thought about the different scenarios on peak hours or non-peak hours? Yes, we did and make analysis on that. Well, can you just answer on the number of vehicles increase in the option of freezing CHT toll and reducing EHC toll? Mr. Low, thank you, Chairman. Perhaps I have not been very clear in my explanation. That is, for CHT, no change, a decrease in toll of $10 for EHC for private cars. A large number of vehicles will go from CHT to EHC. So for EHC, there will be an increase in vehicles. Now, compared to page 5, Well, you are effecting the same reduction amount for EHC, but for one option you said that there would be an increase of 1,400 vehicles, and the other option is 2,900 vehicles. It doesn't make sense to me. Perhaps I would defer to the consultant to tackle that question later on. Well, we don't look at just one single vehicle. There are different diversion effects. So from this figure, we can see that there is different diversion of vehicles in various directions. Well, I'm talking about vehicles which begin to use tunnels, which have not been using tunnels in the past. If you look at our paper, in option C, for the reduction at EHC is a reduction of $5 for EHC for private cars, but for the other option is a reduction of $10 for private cars. So there are two different reduction rates. If you use Model C, well, I don't know why the number has increased from $1,900 to $4,200. I think these figures have come up. Are drawn up based on different presumptions. I think the consultant has done analysis. I think our job here is to give our comments, and well, because of time constraints, I want to draw a line here. Nine members would like to ask questions. Well, we are very tight in our timing, so I've got two agenda items which need to be discussed, and one is on the toll charge change for Route 3 and WHC. It doesn't involve legislation, so there is no pressing need. So based on the progress, now I don't think we have time to discuss that in detail. Can I suggest that the item be left for discussion at the next meeting, the fifth item I mean, but for the sixth agenda item there is a time issue, because after passing through this panel it has to be passed on to the Public Works Subcommittee for follow-up. So I would suggest that the agenda item 5 be deferred for discussion in the next meeting. We want to study what the policy objective is when we discuss these items. If members have no questions, I will ask the relevant government officials to withdraw.
Mr. Poon Xiaoping, well, these tunnels are just our blood vessels, and we're suffering from high blood pressure, so to speak. So there are 3 possible options, and they are thrown out for public consultation. I believe that after the public consultation, there might be other feasibilities proposed by the public. The design capacity of WHC should be very high, although the administration quoted difficulties in the connecting roads. Can you tell us can you give us the capacity and flow in the connecting roads of all 3 tunnels for our reference, please? And what about the 4th tunnel? I think the proposal by Mr. Wong Kwok Heng is worthy of further consideration. Otherwise, we will die of high blood pressure sooner or later. There must be a way from the administration to address our long-term traffic problem. Secretary, should there be the 4th cross-harbour tunnel? Well, as I said earlier, we have to consider the overall traffic conditions of all the harbor crossings, and we hope that in 2017, when the Central Wan Chai bypass is commissioned, will there be any substantial reduction in traffic jam? Well, that's one factor, and secondly, it also depends on whether we have find the space for the portals and connecting roads of a fourth tunnel. We are not ruling that out entirely, but we do have these factors to be considered. Regarding the situation of the connecting roads of all three tunnels, Mr. Lu, please. Thank you. As you can see from the slide, the design capacity of CHT is 78,000 per day. Take 2012 as example, the average daily throughput was 120,000, far above that of the design capacity. For EHC, because it is a dual falling traffic arrangement, so the capacity is also 78,000, and the throughput now is 70,000. As for WHC, it is dual 6-lane traffic. Theoretically speaking, the capacity is very big, 118,000. But as I said, the constraint rests with the connecting roads. So we believe the real capacity is just 55,000, which is really lower than its daily throughput, which is 60,000. I would have got such information. In other words, there is a design flaw with WHC. You are not able to provide the connections. And what about CHT? Although it is almost double its design capacity, why are the connecting roads coping? So I'd like to have the design capacity of the connecting roads of all the tunnels as well as the current traffic throughput. I think the Transport Department should keep such statistics. I'd like to clarify with Mr. Poon. Is Mr. Poon asking about the congestion at the queues of all three tunnels at peak hours? Not just that. They all have connecting roads. Now, for WHC, you only talked about the connecting roads, the situation in Central. I'm asking about the maximum capacity of all the connecting roads of the three tunnels. I think Mr. Poon is concerned about incompatibility in capacity of the connecting roads and the tunnels. Let's take a CHT and EHC's example. We compare the capacity of the tunnels and the connecting roads. The connecting roads have a higher capacity than the tunnels themselves. So there is no question of the tunnels being not able to cope, or no question of the connecting roads not being to cope. And when WHC was planned, we also planned for the construction of Central Wan Chai bypass. But as you all know, the commissioning of that bypass has suffered a major slippage. So when the bypass is available, there would be substantial improvement. Prior to that, the capacity of WHC is greatly hampered, as you can see from this slide here. Dr. Wai Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. We are not just concerned about EHC and CHT. We believe WHC should also be considered as a whole. The real capacity of WHC is less than one-half of its design capacity, 55,000 versus 118,000. Now, according to the Secretary, when Central Wan Chai bypass is up and running, then there will be substantial improvement, since construction of the bypass is going ahead in full steam. So please give us some idea. Once the bypass is commissioned, how much improvement can we expect of the situation involving WHC? It is also mentioned that even prior to the completion of Central Wan Chai bypass, perhaps we can utilize WHC in a more constructive manner. I don't think we need to declare interest who are users. No matter you ride a taxi or a bus or you drive, well, you should have an opportunity of using WHC. The tunnel and the toll plazas are very smooth. They have not achieved their maximum capacity. So can there be short-term measures to enhance the usage of WHC? And the prospect is also important because there will be a motion later on in this meeting to urge the administration to consider the feasibility of building a fourth tunnel. Because we really need to know how much improvement can Central Wan Chai bypass bring. This is very important in our consideration of the motion. We want clearer information from the administration. In the short term, what measures can you have to improve the utilization of WHC? I'll say a few words and see whether the Transport Department has anything to supplement. Yes, all three tunnels have their design capacity, which we want to maximize. For WHC, there is spare capacity in this tunnel, but because of insufficient connecting roads, it is not being put into maximum use. We hope that come 2017, when Central Wan Chai bypass is completed, there can be improvement. As regards how we can have optimal distribution of traffic among the three tunnels, we are studying the arrangements. If even that we cannot address or resolve the traffic problem, perhaps we will have to consider a fourth tunnel as proposed by a member. We are concerned as to whether the traffic of connecting roads can be further improved to ease congestion. I don't think my question is answered. I asked a very specific question. So Central Wan Chai bypass is being constructed in full steam. I'm sure you should have assessments and analysis as to how far can the capacity of WHC be boosted as a result. The Secretary talked about the principles. Of course, I appreciate that. Well, since you have considered these principles, please give us the concrete data. Mr. Liu, please be brief. In 2017, when Central and Wan Chai bypass is commissioned, according to our consultants, the traffic throughput of WHC can be slightly increased to 80,000 odd. And then after 2017, the throughput may reach 90,000 or beyond. Well, the daily traffic pull-through is increasing gradually. This is assuming that the tolls would not be changed for WHC. Mrs. Regina Ip, assuming that the THB only intends to ease congestion at a CHT, then I support option C. Of course, WHC is another issue we have to tackle. Of course, some colleagues suggested building another tunnel or even a bridge connecting the two sides of the harbour. Now, the transport policy is to encourage the public to use mass public transport using the railway as the backbone. Well, I am forced to use these tunnels when I am not in a rush. I tend to ride the taxi ferry, the Star Ferry, and also buses. I am against providing such services free of charge. You know, on the mainland, they gave free tolls, and then as a result, the highways were very congested. If everything is provided free of charge, then it would mean a waste of public resources. So I'm for option C. I hope our colleagues can consider economic benefits as well as environmental protection. Secretary, I hope that option C can be introduced as soon as possible. Mr. Hong Wet Dat lecturer asked you not to be indecisive. And of course, everything has to be tried out first. If after your pilot scheme it doesn't work well, what will you do next? Well, we will consult the public for 3 months. We'll consult the public, including the council. We have to make a decision. No matter which option we choose, ultimately we have to increase our tolls for CHT, and that is subject to amending the schedule. So that can be done by subsidiary legislation. We hope that by middle of next year we can introduce a 12-month trial period. If we can expedite the legislative process, then of course we can start earlier. Starting from 2000, we have been talking this for more than a decade. I don't want to be indecisive. I want to do something about it. Otherwise, the congestion is going to go from bad to worse. All right, you can only implement it in mid next year. Is it by negative vetting or positive vetting? I think is the usual way, negative vetting. It's going to take that long. Well, we are being most lenient with the timetable because we understand that the council as well as the community may want to discuss it. All right, as you said, Secretary, the discussion started in 2000. That is more than a decade ago. And you have to consult the public for 3 months, and implementation can only be done middle next year. Well, because it involves toll increases for CHT, that can only be effected by legislative amendment to amend the schedule, and then toll reduction for EHC. How are we going to work out the reimbursement plan? Well, we also have to work it out. I hope you can try it out as soon as possible, because any modeling is just about projection and estimation. Thank you, Chairman. Well, all 3 tunnels, assuming that the throughput is 55,000 for WHC, the average daily throughput is just 210,000 vehicles. Even with the completion of the Central One-Track bypass, WHC's capacity may be increased from 55,000 to 80,000, but that is still not enough. Well, even it can reach 110,000, then the maximum capacity for all 3 tunnels would just be 270,000. So I'd like to ask whether the administration has assessed or projected the possible growth in cross-harbor traffic in the future. Now, if cross-harbor traffic continues to grow, we must plan ahead. And that's why we support Mr. Wong Kwok Heng's motion. You have to consider the feasibility of building a 4th tunnel. We'll talk about the feasibility. Because if you don't start to act early, then as Mrs. Regina Yip said, we've been talking about this issue for so many years.
Please proceed as soon as possible with studying the feasibility of a 4th tunnel. Also, I would like to put this to the consultant. There are several constraints or considerations in crossing the harbour: time, toll, and the journey. Under the present options, toll is deemed the most important factor affecting tunnel users in choosing which tunnel. If you charge a very high toll, those who are users may drop the idea of using the tunnel. So can the consultant tell us whether toll is the most important factor for people to consider choosing which tunnels? And to what extent will the toll be increased will discourage people not to use the tunnels?
回應就第4條改隧道可能性方面咧，或可能性方面咧，剛才我已經回答咗，即係我哋係要睇埋17年 中環灣仔呢度通車之後，同埋三隧嘅到時個分流情況再去考慮嘅。
對唔住啊，主席，我想講啊，唔好意思，局長，因為根本你計啲數咧，過海嗰個架次咧，你而家三條隧道都唔夠容量㗎喎。
主席，我正想回應呢個問題。的確咧，如果純粹加起上嚟咧，係超過咗嗰個容量啦，個總容量嚇，咁呢個係一個問題。所以咧，我哋而家提嗰個紅加東減嘅方案咧，其實冇假設到咧係冇擠塞嘅。不過我哋希望個擠塞咧，個車龍咧係唔會影響到非改隧道，呢個係目前我哋希望達到嘅。咁長遠嚟講，可能需要好多其他嘅配套，包括咧就係連接路有冇進一步改善空間啊等等，我哋都要考慮嘅。
好啊，顧問公司係咪可以
講講嗰啲數字方面啊
？Mr. Clark。
I got the first part of it. Sorry, Chris. I got the first part of it, but then the simultaneous translation switched into Cantonese in the middle. Sorry. The question about is toll the most important thing? As I described earlier, we have behavioural values of time. These are things that cause people to choose, make a combined decision between time, and that time, if it's congested, can be quite long, and the toll level. So it's not that toll is the most important thing, but toll we can change in order to influence which people use which tunnel. So it's a combination of the two things, and the model does all of that stuff. After that, I got lost.
咁我希望咧就我哋往後會有。
So we will have meetings in the future to discuss this topic. The members can follow up later on. Mr. Tony Yik, about the EHC toll reduction and CH toll increase. Generally, it was looked at in the last electrical term, and we felt that the impact was not very great. Within the sector, we have also discussed that, and we felt that the impact was limited, apart from one particular member who supported it. But nevertheless, I support the implementation of the option because that has never been tried out. For the transport sector, there has been much opposition because the CHT toll will be increased. I think I'd support the government implementing the option on the condition that the CHT toll will not be increased. Well, I came in late. I know that there will be a public hearing, and then the administration will be listening to views from the various sectors to address the problem effectively from a traffic management perspective. The CHT must charge the highest toll. That's my view. But Mr. Kwakake tabled this motion opposing it. And I think the community at large will not accept it. The chairman also said that to tackle the problem, we have to first wait till the central Wan Chai bypass is commissioned. But by then, the EHC would have come under the management of the government already. I think the administration must proceed as soon as possible with the option of buying back the WHC. You don't have to worry about the transfer of benefits. We have to look at the issue from the interest of the community as a whole. If the government is going to buy back WHC, but then the two other tunnels would have already come under the administration, and if you own the three tunnels, then the entire fare structure can be under your control and can be adjusted. And I think the WHC should charge the highest toll. And for the other two tunnels, you can charge a lower fare. And you have the room to actually reduce the tolls overall. And as to which tunnel should charge more and which less, and it depends on the geographical location of the tunnels. I think the government should go ahead with my proposal as soon as possible. Well, I was one of those responsible for managing the WHC. For Central Wan Chai bypass, the delay, that was not a mistake on the part of the administration. Everyone understand what happened. There was a delay till 20 17. Because by then the WHC would be criticizing the administration because the franchise period has already passed half the time. And next, Mr. Chen Hanpan, Chairman, to address the problem of congestion CHT and divert traffic to EHC and WHC. I think that's a reasonable way. But then in paragraph 9 of the paper, it says that the connecting roads, including the central Wanchai bypass, are not adequate. And during peak hours, it won't be able to cope with the additional traffic. I have two questions. First question, are all the connecting roads to WHC congested all throughout the day? What about the non-peak hours? What is this traffic situation? Can the administration provide some figures or information on connecting roads on the Hong Kong side near WHC? And for CHT, it is congested during peak hours and also non-peak hours. So can we think about diverting the traffic during the non-peak hours from CHT to WHC, say cutting the toll at the non-peak hours of at WHC? Can the administration think about that? Mr. Low will talk about the road usage at near WHC connecting roads during non-peak hours. That's Connaught Road. It's around 8:45 a.m. Sorry, I don't have the pictures on the non-peak hours, but from our survey, it is found that during the non-peak hours, excluding the midnight, there is still a queue extending to Shantek Center. Yes, Mr. Chen? This is for peak hours. I'm talking about non-peak hours. The road should not be congested. Is that right? Can we divert traffic from CHT to WHC during non-peak hours? Because CHT is congested all day long. Can we think about WHC and not just EHC? Chairman, what I said is during non-peak hours in daytime, there is a problem with the connecting roads, even at connecting roads at WHC. Well, we are now focusing on tackling congestion at CHT. Well, Mr. Pan is right. The hours of congestion at CHT last 15, 16 hours a day. So can the administration provide us with information on the connecting, the traffic situation at the connecting roads near WHC? I don't think there is a problem all day long. So can the administration provide figures after the meeting on the road usage? Yes, all right. We will go back and take a look at the relevant figures. Next, Ms. Elizabeth Quat. Thank you, Chairman. Several questions from me and several suggestions. Well, I don't need to declare anymore because everyone uses the tunnel. The consultant showed us some photos during certain hours. Say that is 8:42 a.m. and there is a photo of EHC at 8:50 a.m. Are these the very peak hours? I don't think the three options can help alleviate the congestion. For EHC, it has not been saturated yet and can still take in more cars. But during the peak hours, well, rather the peak hours starts from 7:50 a.m. and 8 a.m. During those times, the the road is very congested, and you are stuck in the Eastern Island corridor before you can get to Causeway Bay. And I don't believe that the option can help alleviate the problem. It will only aggravate the congestion at EHC during their peak hours. It will not help ease the congestion at CHT a lot, but then conversely, it will worsen the congestion at EHC. Then the administration will be open to criticisms if that is the case. For users as ourselves, I don't really think the options can help. Many colleagues also mentioned about whether there are other more feasible options. Mr. Chan Hak-kan asked that if the three options are not accepted by the public and the administration, what can the administration do? If these three options are not accepted by the public, the administration has not responded on that point. One member also proposed park and ride. Would the government be able to find locations for park and ride? A lot of people told me that they don't want to drive their cars across the tunnel, but you don't provide them with enough sites to do that. So will the administration think of going down that route? And also, for the auto-toll lanes, there aren't many auto-toll lanes in the various tunnels, at most 3 auto-toll lanes. Now the auto-toll program has been implemented for so many years. Why is it that not many cars use auto-toll? Has the administration considered whether the fee is not reasonable? I've asked many drivers why they don't use auto-toll. They said that it's not worth a while because they have to pay an extra $30 in administrative fee. And what is the total revenue for auto-toll company? Is there a room for reducing the administration, the auto-toll fee because they are now on a franchise? Does the administration have ways to encourage more cars to use auto-tolls? Can we open more auto-toll lanes to facilitate cars passing by and smoothen out the traffic? Now, can we expedite the construction of the Central Wan Chai bypass so that it can be commissioned before 2017? And also, can the government consider building another tunnel, as what other members said? Okay, I think, the administration has to respond to her questions in written reply because there are so many questions. Mrs. Sit-ho, I will be very brief. I agree with Lee Chak-yen. We should do more on reducing the number of cars or number of vehicles on road. Whether it is reducing toll, increasing road, or building a 4th tunnel, if you don't reduce the number of vehicles, no matter how many tunnels you build, it will not be of any use. So, well, we will not be discussing here the measures to reduce the number of vehicles on road. Now, if you don't have measures to reduce the number of vehicles, how can the effect of these options last? And THB talked about the future railway development, and that is for 2030. So it means the options have to last for at least 17 years before that plan comes on board. So how long will the effect of these options last? Chairman, the consultant also briefed us on the consultant's report. I am sure that a lot of information will be very useful to us as reference, apart, say, the distribution of the traffic zones, and also the use of transport in these traffic zones of the residents there. So that will help us in considering which option to choose.
And then the toll for RH62 will not be cut because the administration doesn't want to affect non-cross harbour tunnel. I live on the island side, of course. I understand the impact on Aberdeen Tunnel as well as the traffic congestion at Morrison Hill Road. So can we be given the full copy of the consultancy report, because the administration paper here is very brief. It just tells us about the 3 options and no background information is provided. So can the Secretary give us a copy of the full report? Regarding the consultancy report and technical projections and statistics, I'll see how we can compile it and make it available for members. But you have already got the consultant report. Why can't you just give us the copy? Well, they have the consultant report, but perhaps the data are not entirely in the report. Let's see what we can do. Yes, it is our purpose to reduce traffic. We understand that there must be alternative means of public transport, and therefore the railway plays a very important role. We believe that from 2018 and 2020, when the Sha-Tin Central Link is commissioned, there will be improvement to road traffic. In the long term, how can we contain the growth of traffic and at the same time ensure that members have appropriate public services? Well, this is something for the whole transport policy to consider. I agree with Mr. Lee Chok-yan and Ms. Sid Ho and also Mrs. Regina Ip. We want to optimize our road resources. We also want to lower pollution. And sometimes tolls and fares are important factors too. Mr. James Toh. Well, the DP's position. If you don't handle WHC, then the options here are very marginal in bringing improvements, even if we go for option C. But according to your PowerPoint, the connecting roads of WHC can only allow a capacity of 55,000 when the daily throughput of WHC is already 60,000. Now we are not talking about the total, rather at critical times of the day. So I think your analysis should focus on critical periods during the day. I'm sure you understand that there are peaks, rush hours during the day. So I hope the Secretary and the consultant can provide more information in this regard. Let me say, let's say is option C, an increase of $10 for CHT and a cut of $5 for EHC. All right, under option C, the cost is $50 million. Now, if you still have the capacity to attract more traffic to EHC, say if the cut is not $5 but $10, what will be the outcome? We have to seriously consider Dr. Kokaki's motion. He is asking for a toll freeze of CHT. Well, in the past, DP used to think the same, but even if you're to increase CHT by $10 at CHT, well, if the effect is so marginal, so can you consider cutting $10 instead of $5 at EHC to make the relief meaningful? That will make it easier for us to support your toll increase of CHT. Okay. And lastly, I think Mr. Ronnie Tong has a point in saying that at particular times of the day, perhaps you can waive the toll one way. But of course, you have to work out the cost implications and also the extent of relief that can bring. Now, the collection of toll, well, that process is irrelevant. The delay caused by that is irrelevant. But the cut from 20 to 0 is a big difference. So, all right, at peak hours, if the toll is cut from 25 to 0, I'm not talking about cutting it to 0, but just a cut of $10. I hope that the Secretary can come up with an optimal option for the trial scheme. I know this is just the consultation period, but you will continue to receive views from the public. I hope that your mind will continue to grow. I mean, you will discuss with the consultant again what other options are available. Because if you want to increase tolls, you must convince the public as well as political parties that the effect or the benefit is so high that we can endorse a toll increase. So the DP will oppose Dr. Kwakaki's motion today. The point is to allow more room for the Secretary to consider the toll differential of EHC and CHT. Okay. All right, that ends the question time for members, but I have one suggestion. Can all the assumptions used by the consultant, well, they've not told us, after the toll adjustment of CHT and HC, what will be the traffic attracted from WHC to these two tunnels under all three options? So I myself and DAB are worried. After the toll adjustment, traffic of EHC will be affected while CHT continues to be congested, and there may be a reduction in traffic at WHC because is attracted to other tunnels. We are afraid that the impact or the outcome may be the two tunnels will be more congested, and for CHT there will be complaints and grievances because of higher tolls. And for EHC, though you're going to cut toll by $5, users may not want to exchange a shortened journey time for that. So I'm afraid that nobody will be happy after the toll adjustment, and therefore this subject warrants further study. Allow me to provide a general response. Thank you. Yes, many members have asked us for more information, and we will consider whether that's available. And there are also queries raised by members. We'll see whether we can address them by providing supplementary information. Regarding the modeling, we have taken into account the impacts to all three tunnels. So for the impact on WHC, well, we have considered the traffic diverted from WHC as well. We believe that if we do not increase toll for CH2, it will be not useful at all in solving the problem, and if we cut the toll, then it will even be worse. As for whether the cut can be higher for EHC, that may attract new traffic. Our threshold is to ensure that non-cross harbour traffic would not be affected by cross harbour traffic. As regards the financial implications to the government, well, the extent of reimbursement is not our major concern. Whether it be 50 million or higher, it doesn't matter, because the government has spent a lot to improve our air quality. So anything that can improve traffic congestion and improve air quality as a result will be considered. Thank you. Two members have put in their motions, and we have to deal with them. First, from Dr. Kwokaki, temporary motion, motion without notice. I'd like to say that this motion is motion without notice. Actually, we do not have any temporary or permanent motion, so to speak, but his motion is about opposing any proposal to increase toll for EHC. All right, if we would like to move a motion relevant to our discussion, we should not just say we oppose to toll increases at EHC, because even if the motion is passed, it will not help our discussion, because in the administration's paper there are three options A, B, C. So it's meaningless, pointless to say that we just oppose any proposal to increase tolls at EHC. Dr. Kwok, you don't have a seconder yet. Will you first seek a seconder? I second. I think the effect of the motion is to screen out any option that will increase tolls for at EHC. All right, Dr. Kwok proposes and Mr. Leung second. I'm afraid I can't give you time to explain your motion because we don't have enough time to finish our agenda. So I'll put this to the vote. From those who support this motion, hands up, please. 3. Those who are against, hands up. 8. All right, the motion is defeated. And Mr. Wong Kwok Heng's motion to urge the administration to study the feasibility of building a 4th cross-harbour tunnel or cross-harbour bridge, moved by Mr. Wong Kwok Heng, seconded by Mr. Tony Tse. My personal view is we haven't had a detailed discussion of this first, and it's just mentioned by individual members. So we can just vote on it to show our inclination as a matter of principle, and the administration will note our outcome. And I now put this item to vote. Hands up those who are in favor of this motion. Thank you. Those who are against? All right. All right, the motion is carried. I hope that the administration can study the feasibility of a 4th cross-harbour tunnel. We will end the discussion of this item here. And as I said, I will find an appropriate time with the Secretariat to convene a special meeting on traffic distribution among the 3 tunnels to receive deputations. After we have fixed the date, we'll inform members. Okay? Thank you very much, Secretary and your colleagues, for attending this part of the meeting. Thank you. All right, we move on.
We move on to the next agenda item. Shall we now invite the administration team to come in? This is about Zhong Kwan O Lam Tin Tunnel, detailed design and site investigation works. I want to remind members it may involve interests of members, so if members have direct or indirect pecuniary interest, please make the declaration. Yes, I would first like to ask the Undersecretary to take us through the paper. Chairman, in the interest of time, I will be very brief, and then I will, as an introduction, Zhong Kwan O Lam Tin Tunnel, there was an initial proposal. Previously, funding was granted to proceed with the work as soon as possible. We proposed for a detailed design and site investigation work to be carried out. If we get the approval from the panel on the funding, we would take the proposal to the Public Works Subcommittee in March, and then apply for funding from FC in May. Perhaps I would now like to ask the CEDD colleague to take us through the project via PowerPoint. Who is going to make the introduction? Yes, Chairman, members, I will be very quick to go through the proposal. This is a major works or connection to from Changguano to external areas. In the north, there is this Changguano Hospital, the green line in the diagram. This is the main access way to outside. Now, we are proposing in the south to build a Changguano-Lamtin tunnel to connect Changguano with the other districts. It is 4.2 kilometers long. The red part is 2.6 kilometers, is a tunnel. And it's below Kam-lam mountain. It's a dual two-lane tunnel. On the east, we will connect it to the road networks in Changguano, and we will build depressed roads, just like the Taima section of the central Wanchai bypass. It serves two purposes. It minimizes the visual impact and noise pollution created to Changguano residents, and also can connect it to the waterfront of Changguano. To the west of the project, there is an interchange that is the Lamtin interchange. It serves to connect the tunnel road to Kuntong road networks, including the EHC, the existing roads in Kuntong, and also another road which links to West Kowloon in the future. The need and justifications. At present, there is a Changguano tunnel which connects Changguano with other districts. There is congestion in the peak hours. The queue can extend to the upper left-hand corner of the diagram, which is the telephone exchange. In the evening, on the Kowloon side, there is always congestion in the evening hours. Following the development of Changguano, the situation is going to aggravate, and there is a pressing need to proceed with the project. The traffic flow. Now, the volume capacity ratio now is around 1.14, and in 2021, when all the residential developments are completed in Changguano, that will increase to 1.38. And if the new tunnel can be built, that can be reduced to 0.86. Well, a figure of 1 or less than 1 means that the traffic is smooth. From 1 to 1.2, then there is a congestion, but at an acceptable level. But when it reaches 1.2, the traffic congestion is very serious and needs to be tackled urgently. Apart from easing traffic congestion, it also gives other benefits to traffic. Well, for residents living in the southern part of Changguano, if they have to use Changguano Tunnel, they have to go a long way, and it takes 20 minutes to go to the other areas. And that will be reduced to 3 minutes if the new tunnel is in operation. For Kuntong, the new tunnel serves some purposes as well. So the Changguano tunnel is more or less saturated, and with the new tunnel, the congestion or traffic at Kuntong will be eased, especially for the new development at Anderson Road. We need this tunnel to be a main access way for that area. also understand that the project will have an impact on residents nearby. So we will be implementing measures to alleviate the impact, in particular in Kwun Tong, in the Lam Tin interchange. From Yao Lai Estate, that's from viewing it from the Yao Lai Estate. On the left is the Eastern Harbour Crossing, and on the right is the entrance of the new tunnel. And we will be using a depressed road system, and then there will be tunnels, construction work to be undertaken underground. %90 of the roads will be undercovered, and so we can cut down on the noise pollution. And that will be the noise created will be far below the requirement of EIA. And we will also be doing a lot of greening on the covered areas to enhance the visual aesthetics, visual view of the area. In 2006, we introduced the project in Leshko, and members were very concerned about the fact that we have to cut through the Cha Kwa Ling village. So we now decided to use a tunnel approach. So which means that no demolition or relocation needs to be undertaken in Cha Kwa Ling village. And the life of the residents will not be affected. We hope to upgrade the project so that we can go ahead with the detailed design, including the site investigation. The cost is going to be $196 million. Well, it involves different design aspects, including slopes, tunnels, and reclamation works. So on the technical assessment, we would have to ensure minimizing the impact on residents nearby, including Cha Kwa Ling village, Yao Lai Estate, Sashawan landfield, and there are also some planned MTR lines, and there is also this Chinese Christian cemetery, so a lot of technical work has to be done, hence the cost of $196 million. So that's a brief introduction of the project. Thank you. Undersecretary, anything to add from you? In the interest of time, I want to remind members that the paper will be further scrutinized at the Public Subcommittee in March, and then thereafter will go to the Finance Committee. So I hope that members can focus on the traffic and transport aspect and not on the works aspect, because we have other opportunities to do that. For members wish to speak, well, I'll draw a line here. Yang Kwok Hong, Kwok Ka-kei. Any other members who wish to speak? Gary Fan also. I'll draw a line here. I would extend the meeting to 1 p.m. Gary Fan, Elizabeth Kwok, Yip Chi Ming, Chan Hak Ken, Leung Kwok Hong, and Dr. Kwok Ka-kei. 3 minutes each, please. Mr. Gary Fan. Thank you, Chairman. I've read through the paper many times. The most important omission is the timetable. In October 2002, the CED then applied for $40 million here already. So the discussion started in 2002 on this project, and also the Cross Harbour Bridge and the connecting roads. The paper also says that the Chengguan Tunnel is already saturated and there's been a long-standing congestion problem. And in paragraphs 5 and 6, there is information missing. Why it took so long to do the initial study? And in paragraph 9, the administration says that the works on this new tunnel should be expedited as soon as possible. I know that there has been the project has met some resistance from residents because of noise, pollution, and so on. But then I don't think the construction will have such great an impact. I think it's important that we should expedite the project. I think there has been too long a delay, and then we have to have a timetable. And a lot of the technical technicalities have been overcome. And from 2002, there was a population of 28 million people in Chengguan, and from 2010, 18 years, the population has increased substantially. I support the project, and I hope that the government can speed up the project as soon as possible to ease the traffic congestion problem at Chengguan. Yes, Undersecretary, can you please tackle the first question? If we can commission the new tunnel in 2021, the traffic congestion can be eased. This is a problem we do see, but for a tunnel project as complicated as this, and also the connecting roads, planning does take quite a long period. We have to gazette the proposal, we have to handle the opposition opinions, and that took already 3 years. And then the construction work will take another 4 years. That's the rough timetable we have. Can you tell us that construction works can commence in 2016 and then it can be commissioned in 2021? Is this the timetable? All right, we'll take a look at the proposal, and then you will go to Public Works Subcommittee in March, and then you will go to Finance Committee. Afterward, you will do tendering, and then design, site investigation. How much time would all these take? Members are very concerned about the timetable. We've been talking about this project for over a decade. From 1989 onwards, we've been talking about this proposal. It took us so long to come to the present day, and we are very impatient. So can you tell us the whole process? Can you give us a paper? We try to share the work process with members. It has to do with the funding as well. Yes, well, we understand that. Ms. Elizabeth Quat. Thank you, Chairman. Residents have waited for so long. We know that it will be commissioned in 2021. The residents and the electrical have said this. The residents are very concerned that the project will create a noise nuisance to those living along the route or the tunnel. What are the measures to be taken to mitigate the noise nuisance? The paper has been very clear. Ms. Elizabeth Quatty. We have just initially completed the EIA report, and that has been submitted to the EPD for scrutiny, and in the middle of this year we expect to make it available for the public for scrutiny. You can see that the design can fully meet the requirements under the EIA ordinance. In particular aspects of residents' concern, we have been putting in strengthened measures.
For instance, we're going to do something in Zhangguanou, and there will be depressed roads on the two sides of Zhangguanou and Namtin, and where possible, the road surface will be decked, and noise barriers will also be installed in order to minimize the noise impact on the public. Ms. Quat. All right, if a noise is already resolved, now the population is expected to continue to grow in Zhangguanou. I'd like to know whether there is any room for expansion in the capacity of the tunnel, assuming that there is further population growth. Thank you. We have already taken into account as mentioned by Mr. Gary Fan, the planned population in Zhangguanou is $450,000. The capacity of this tunnel is will be able to cope with this level of population. The two Zhangguanou tunnels, the FE will be about 0.9 or 0.8 to 0.9. There's a ratio of V and volume and capacity. But the population has already reached this level. By completion in 2021, what is the projected population in Zhangguanou? As of today, the population in Zhangguanou is 380,000, and by 2011 it will be close to 450,000. There is already maximum planned population for Zhangguanou. Mr. Yik, thank you. I've got two questions. First, the alignment. Have you moved the alignment? Back then, there was a big bend in the tunnel because of the toll plaza. No, we've straightened it out. I'm pleased to see that the administration has adopted this view from the industry. And in the new plan, I don't see any toll plaza. And point 4. The administration assumes that this is going to be a toll tunnel. So where's the toll plaza? We have incorporated a lot of views from the public, and therefore we have arrived at this very much improved, revised version. And it's also true that we have reduced the level of reclamation to a minimum, acceding to the public's advice. And it's true that in our design there is no toll plaza, but it is our transport policy that all tolls should charge a toll. Although there is no toll plaza here, well, that's why in our detailed design we are going to think of alternative ways other than having a toll plaza. I still have time left, Chairman. Well, the Logistics Institute has given some suggestions for the administration. I'm pleased that you have changed the alignment as I requested so that you can reduce reclamation, and by straightening the tunnel, construction costs will be lower. Now, currently, you are charging $3 for a Zhangguanou tunnel. Now, if you also charge $3 for this tunnel in the future, you might as well make it a toll-free tunnel for better social benefits. And you may have to use auto toll if you don't have toll plaza there. So you have to think about this. Mr. Gary Chen, thank you, Chairman. Regarding noise and alignment, well, I agree with colleagues, so I'll not repeat these points. However, I'd like to seek clarification on the following. There are views in the community that because of a local objection, the bridge and also the tunnel cannot be completed together. I'd like to know whether that is true or not. And secondly, we know that the bus is working on bus route rationalization programs and also bus interchange programs. Will there be room to introduce an interchange, to introduce interchange for buses here? so that before passengers go into the tunnel, there is an opportunity for them to change to other buses, because traffic in Zhangguan is not too convenient. Thank you. Yes, we want the two projects to be completed more or less simultaneously, although they may start differently, because the two projects differ in complexity. By comparison, this is a much more complicated project, and therefore we have to start it first. Regarding interchange, for bus interchange, we will try to divide a big district into different zones, and then encourage interchange. As regards whether Zhangguan residents can make good use of these roads, well, there's still time. We all know the major way forward. As for details, we will have time to sort out the details. I'm asking whether they can provide the hardware first. If you have room or a place for interchange, then it is possible in the future. For CHT, you don't have room. It was not planned, and therefore you cannot introduce bus interchange. And that's why we need a detailed design. This is just a preliminary and rough design. When it comes to detailed design, views by the community as well as by colleagues, well, if they do not substantially add to the construction cost or change in alignment, they will try to be incorporated as far as possible. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, Chairman. Yes, the project has suffered a long slippage. I haven't really read the paper. I am just listening to the officials' briefing. You've incorporated a lot of views, and you have overcome a lot of difficulties. In other words, if people had not made those comments to you, you would not have resolved those obstacles or difficulties. So you should not blame people for slowing you down, for giving you comments, because once the project is decided and built, there is no turning back, even if you have made a mistake. All right, you are going to upgrade part of the project to Cat A. I'd like to know whether there are still objections to your project. You have to think about this. There is still room for the project to be adjusted. Now, you have not you've not got clearance from the EPD yet regarding the EIA report. I'd like to ask whether you still expect objections from the local community. Can you tell us what are the objections that are not yet resolved or addressed? Or have you already addressed all objections? All right. Because if the objectors have a point, I am bound to oppose your funding bid. So can you tell us whether you have addressed all objections? We know that for all major infrastructure projects, people's livelihood or as a way of life or even interest might be affected. And that's why we have carried out many rounds of public consultation to listen to them, to know in what ways they will be affected. We want to ensure the greatest benefits to be derived from the project with minimum impact on the public. So residents have given us excellent ideas. Honestly speaking, we cannot satisfy the request of all residents. But as I said, for the situation of Charcoal Link Village, well, this is exactly what we have done to address objections. Well, I think you don't quite understand what I meant. I'd like to know outstanding objections that if you're not addressed, or you can tell me. Now you can tell me. If there are new objections in the future, I won't blame you. At least you tell me whether you have already addressed all outstanding or all current objections. Well, we have to go through Gazetto and also EIA, and we cannot rule out that cause some residents are still not satisfied, and they do have the right to raise objection or comments under the statutory procedures. Still, having said so, we have appropriate procedures to deal with objections. Just one more sentence. Your time is up. I'd like to know whether current existing, do you still have objections? Dr. Kwok. I support the project. By 2016, the VC will be 0.88, and the planned population is 450,000. The government is sparing no efforts to identify land for housing, and as you know, Secretary, you are also responsible for housing. Can you further increase the planned population for Zhang Kun-o, because it will have a positive impact on satisfying the housing needs of Hong Kong people? So have you considered the possible increase in traffic because of increased population in Zhang Kun-o? Now you have changed the alignment a little bit, and reclamation, the extent of reclamation is lower. Can you tell us the exact size of reclamation? And will you turn the reclaimed land into something the public can use if, say, it is at the harbour front? Will you have improved or enhanced waterfront facilities to allow residents of Kowloon East to enjoy? And the project cost, how much is it higher than it was in 2010? Population growth, as my colleague said, the projected population in Zhangzhou will be 450,000. Even if the ultimate population is to rise a little bit more, it will not be by too many. So it's more or less the peak. And then there'll be 2 tunnels and also some roads to Kowloon. So by 2021, the VR is 0.86. That means there is still room to accommodate additional traffic. We have not done the detailed design of the road yet. After that is done, we will have more accurate figures. Otherwise, what I say here may be misleading. And the extent of reclamation, may I defer to my colleague? Thank you. We have cut the extent of reclamation to 3 hectares only. The major purpose is for building the road. On the 2 sides of the road, there will be the harbour front facing Zhang Kun-o Bay, and will propose to build a pedestrian walkway so as to extend the Zhang Kun-o walkway to this part of the road. Since you are going to carry out the study anyway, please do not just think about the traffic aspects, because it will be waterfront to be used by Zhang Kun-o residents. Can you discuss with LCSC or the relevant bureau to see whether leisure facilities can be done here at the same time? All right, thank you. We will end the discussion of this item here. And members, do you object to the submitting of this project to the PWSC? No objection? Okay. Mr. Fan Kwok Wai has submitted a motion. Mr. Fan, I'd like to remind you that the motion was only submitted after the meeting has been extended, so I'm afraid it cannot be entertained. In future, if members would like to move any motion relevant to our agenda or whatever documents, related to our meeting, please do so before the meeting has been extended. That's the rules we have to follow in all panel meetings. And please ensure that you have a seconder for your motion. The chairman cannot accept a motion without a seconder. All right, we end the discussion here. No AOB items. I declare the meeting closed. Date of next meeting, the 15th of March at 10:45 a.m. Thank you.